Well, Vanessa Stoykov, thank you so much for that amazing networking and nature session this morning. It was a really different topic for us, and like you mentioned at the end, talking about money and finance, as we did this morning, can be really taboo and can be really confronting, but it also felt really therapeutic, and I think everyone really savored that opportunity just to get honest and to hear what other people are going through and what other people are thinking about money. Um, just for a bit of a wrap up for those who weren't able to be here today online, I thought we should share a couple of the questions that you posed to the audience today, because I thought they, like I was saying to you, I think they're the sort of questions that people are going to take home and be thinking about for quite a long time to come. Um, did you just want to recap what were those questions and what were your thinking behind putting them together today?
Sure. Like, I think the first question we asked people was, what is causing you pain around money? What's the pain in your life? What decisions are you making based on money? Okay, where can you afford to live? What job do you have to do? What can you give your children? How do you look after your parents? All the things that you choose because of your money situation. There's pain attached to that, and until you identify that pain,
Yep.
you can't go about making a change. So that's the first question we asked people. And look, we had a series of answers. Like, it was really great to have people sharing honestly in all sorts of situations, but it makes you realize how intrinsic money is to our life.
Yeah. And what can people do to do their own sort of reflections on that?
Yeah, well, we talked about, what are you willing to give up? That's a hard one, because are you willing to give up the expensive house or the big mortgage or the rent that's closer to the city and you have to commute more? Or what are the things? Can you get a side hustle, a second job, work overtime? What are you willing to give up? Your time in your life and the way you've structured it to free up some cash flow so that you can invest. And you can't ask people how are they going to become an investor until you ask them what they're willing to give up to get there.
Yeah. Another one of the key takeouts for me personally was that no matter what your situation is, you always have choices.
Yeah, you do.
And that was a bit of an eye-opener, because I think when we talked about what sort of pain finances might be causing in your life, it can put you into a bit of a corner and really just thinking about how you're going to get out from that situation. But it was actually then very empowering, and like you were saying, talking about what are you willing to give up and really thinking about it to understand that you always do have some choices to make. What do you see as some of the most common choices where you think people who might not even know where to start, that they might be able to start looking to have a bit more of that flexibility?
I think a lot of it's living expenses. So, Sydney's an expensive place to live, but look at, what does it cost for where you live, your mortgage or your rent? How much do you spend on eating out? Like, do you have a car? Do you need it? Can you catch public transport? They're all questions that on first reaction you think, yeah, of course I need that. I have to live there and I don't eat out that much. But when you really start to look at what you want, so here's what I want my life to look like. I don't want to work all the time. I want to be able to travel, whatever it is. How do I get there? Something has to give.
Yeah.
And you do always have a choice. But the other thing to remember is it doesn't happen quickly. And that's the downside of, being a money expert, is if you're a dieting expert, in 6 weeks you can make someone lose weight and they think, wow, I've nailed it. But, money's a longer journey and it takes time. It takes time to build wealth. But you know what? The time's going to pass either way. So you either make a stand and start and let time run its course, or not and wish you had.
Yeah, such good advice.
Thank you,
Especially
John.
on the time horizon. The last one that I wanted to just follow up on was your point about those sacrifices and what you're willing to give up, but then reframing the way that you look at those sacrifices and turning them into opportunities. And you made a great point about your move up to the Blue Mountains. Do you want to share that again? Because I thought that was really powerful.
Yeah, great. Like, it's actually a lot cheaper to live in the Blue Mountains than it is in Sydney, but we live in a beautiful place where, our rent and our living expenses are so much less than Sydney, but it's a place that we love to live. And so the opportunity was to change our life. The upside financially was that it's a cheaper way to live than in Sydney. So, but the emotional thing was we got to raise our kids in nature and do things differently. So, you can always find an opportunity and upside and be smart with money.
And you talked about, the potential downside or the fear you had around that commute back into Sydney. And then I guess that links into this.
Yeah, well, I
this-
ended up
this book
writing
in
my
the-
book on the train. So I turned that 2-hour train commute into an opportunity to do something I'd wanted to do my whole life, and that's become an author. So, you know, and that wasn't easy, and it wasn't always glamorous. I'm not going to pretend it was. It's not. It's hard. But I did it, and I'm grateful for that commute because I wouldn't have had the time with 3 kids and a business to do it otherwise.
Well, we'll be more than happy to put the link to this fine book in the email and in the notes to this video, and highly recommend everyone check it out, because while we don't talk about it so much, it is really important, and it's interlinked in so much of our life and our relationships and what we're doing with ourselves, money and finances, and it is worth having more of a think about. And I think you've approached that in a really unique way, and it is going to give people plenty to think about and new perspectives.
Thank you very much. I've loved being here, and congrats on building an amazing, authentic business. You've done an amazing job.
Thank you so much, Vee.